For 28 years I believed family meant showing up when things got difficult. I thought blood created obligations stronger than convenience, that love could survive disappointment, and that tragedy would automatically bring people together. I was catastrophically wrong about all of it. The pattern started early. While my sister Emma got dance lessons, piano lessons, and private tutoring, I got hand-me-downs and lectures about being grateful for what I had. When Emma wanted a car for her 16th birthday, Dad worked overtime for 3 months to buy her a brand new Honda Civic. When I turned 16 2 years later, they handed me bus money and told me walking was good exercise. Emma's college education was fully funded. Tuition, room, board, spending money, and a brand new laptop. When I graduated high school with a 3.8 GPA and a partial scholarship to State University, they told me I should be proud to be independent and figure out my own way. I worked 2 jobs throughout college, graduated with $47,000 in student loans, and never once heard them brag about my achievements to their friends. The favoritism wasn't subtle. It was a family operating system as natural and unquestioned as gravity. Emma was the investment. I was the discount child, the one they'd gotten right the first time and didn't need to repeat. When I met David in my senior year of college and we got engaged after graduation, my parents offered to contribute exactly $500 to our wedding. That should cover your flowers, Mom said as if she were being generous. Emma's engagement 3 years later resulted in an immediate offer to pay for her entire $75,000 dream wedding. They didn't even wait for her to ask. But I had learned to document everything by then. Not out of malice, but out of a strange compulsion to prove to myself that the disparity was real, that I wasn't imagining the difference in treatment. I kept a running note in my phone. Gift amounts, financial contributions, time spent, attention given. The numbers told a story that my family would have denied if confronted. Emma, new car $18,000, college tuition $78,000, wedding fund $75,000, graduation trip to Europe $8,000, law school application fees $2,400, bar exam prep course $3,200. Total family investment $184,600. Me, used bicycle $150, partial college support, exactly 1 semester's worth of groceries approximately $400, wedding contribution $500, high school graduation dinner $67 for the whole family at Applebee's. Total family investment $1,117. I showed these numbers to David once, early in our marriage. He stared at the list for a long time, then asked why I kept track of something so painful. I couldn't give him a good answer then. Now I know I was preparing for a war I didn't know was coming. When Lucas was born, I thought things might change. Grandchildren had a way of softening people, creating new bonds, offering fresh starts. For about 6 months it seemed like maybe I'd been right. Mom visited regularly, Dad bought Lucas toys, and Emma even babysat twice when David and I needed date nights. But the pattern reasserted itself as soon as Lucas stopped being a novelty. When Emma announced her engagement to Dr. Marcus Chin, a cardiologist she'd met during her law firm's charity golf tournament, Lucas immediately became old news. Every conversation shifted to wedding planning, venue selections, and guest list management. Lucas's first steps were interrupted by phone calls about Emma's dress fittings. His first words were drowned out by discussions about Emma's honeymoon plans. I continued documenting, now with timestamps and photos. Lucas's first birthday party. 3 family members attended, stayed for 1 hour, left early for Emma's engagement party shopping trip. Emma's engagement party. 47 people attended, lasted 6 hours, cost approximately $12,000 according to Mom's proud Facebook posts. The cancer diagnosis came when Lucas was 7 years old. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia, the doctor said, which sounded like a foreign language designed specifically to break hearts. The treatment plan would take approximately 18 months. The survival rate was encouraging but not guaranteed. Our world stopped completely. I called my family immediately, expecting the kind of emergency response that serious illness demands. Instead, I got a series of responses that I screenshot and saved. Mom, oh no. How terrible. Let me know if you need anything. Emma's trying on dresses today, but I'll call you tonight. Dad, that's rough, kiddo. Kids are tough though. He'll pull through. Can't talk long, tea time in 20 minutes. Emma, OMG, that's so scary. Sending prayers. By the way, can you still watch Fluffy next weekend? Marcus and I have that wine country trip. The first hospitalization lasted 11 days. Lucas was terrified, hooked up to machines, undergoing tests that required him to stay perfectly still while strangers in masks moved around him with serious expressions. David and I took turns sleeping in the hard hospital chair, reading him stories, playing quiet games, and trying to maintain normalcy in a place where nothing was normal. My family visited exactly once during those 11 days. Mom and Dad came together on a Thursday afternoon, stayed for 37 minutes, and spent most of the visit complaining about hospital parking fees and asking when Lucas would be back to normal, so family gatherings could resume their regular schedule. You know how important routine is for everyone, Mom said, patting Lucas's hand briefly before checking her phone. Emma's wedding planning is so stressful, and she really needs her family around for support during this time. Emma never came to that first hospitalization, or the second, or the third. She was always busy with wedding preparations, work commitments, or vacation plans. But she posted regularly on social media about her exciting engagement activities, often with captions about being blessed and living her best life. I screenshot every post, noting the timestamps against Lucas's chemo schedule. Emma's wine tasting adventure, posted while Lucas was getting his port installed. Emma's bachelorette party planning post, uploaded while Lucas was in the ICU with a fever that wouldn't break. Emma's dress-fitting celebration, shared while Lucas was learning to walk again after a particularly brutal round of treatment. The pattern became so predictable that I started anticipating it. Every time Lucas had a major medical event, Emma would coincidentally have an unmissable wedding-related commitment. Every time I asked for family support, Mom would explain how much stress Emma was under and how important it was for everyone to prioritize happy occasions over difficult situations. We can't put our lives on hold indefinitely, Dad said during one of our increasingly rare phone conversations. Lucas is getting the best medical care possible. What more do you want from us? What I wanted was for one person in my family to love my dying child enough to miss a cake tasting. What I wanted was for someone to offer to drive me to the hospital when I was too exhausted to see straight. What I wanted was for my sister to visit her nephew once, just once, during the scariest period of his short life. Instead, I got updates about Emma's catering decisions and complaints about how my situation was making family events heavy and depressing. But I also got something unexpected: clarity. Every missed visit, every dismissed concern, every prioritized wedding detail over my child's life taught me exactly who my family was and what I meant to them. So I kept documenting, now with methodical precision. I created separate folders for each family member, documenting their responses to Lucas's illness with the thoroughness of a legal investigation. Text message screenshots, social media posts, calendar conflicts, and financial expenditures. I tracked every dollar they spent on Emma's wedding against every hour they refused to spend with Lucas. The numbers were staggering. In the 18 months of Lucas's treatment, my family spent approximately $47,000 on Emma's engagement activities, wedding preparations, and related celebrations. They spent approximately $73 on Lucas, a get-well card, a small toy, and gas money for the 2 visits they actually made. During the same period, Emma's social media showed 347 posts about wedding planning, engagement celebrations, and relationship milestones. She posted about Lucas exactly twice, once sharing a generic thoughts and prayers post about childhood cancer awareness, which she deleted after 3 days, and once mentioning him in a list of people she was grateful for, during Thanksgiving, the same Thanksgiving dinner she skipped because it conflicted with her in-laws' wine club event. I was building a case without knowing what trial was coming. The end came on a Thursday evening in October. Lucas had been fighting for 19 months, longer than anyone expected, with a courage that shattered and inspired me daily. He died holding my hand, telling me he loved me and asking if I would take care of his stuffed elephant. David was holding his other hand. The room was quiet and peaceful and absolutely devastating. I called my family within an hour of Lucas's death. Their responses arrived as text messages over the next several hours. Mom received 11:43 p.m. "Oh honey, I'm so sorry. This is just terrible. Let me know about funeral arrangements when you have them. Emma has venue visits this weekend, but we'll figure something out." Dad received 12:17 a.m. "Sorry for your loss. Let me know if you need anything. Keep the arrangements simple. Kids' funerals should be private family affairs. Emma, received 9:22 a.m. the next day. I'm devastated for you guys. This is so unfair. I'll try to be there for whatever you need. By the way, did you get my text about Fluffy? Marcus and I leave for Napa tomorrow and need to confirm pet sitting. I screenshot everything and added it to my documentation file. Planning Lucas's funeral while grief consumed every rational thought was like trying to perform surgery while drowning. But I did it methodically, making decisions that honored his memory while accommodating my family's schedules and limitations. I chose Saturday afternoon for the service, confirmed their availability multiple times, and even offered to pay for their hotel rooms if travel was difficult. On Friday evening, 18 hours before Lucas's funeral, Mom called with the news that would define our relationship forever. About tomorrow, she said, her voice carrying the tone she used when she'd already decided something and was just informing me of her decision. Emma's having a crisis with her wedding venue. The coordinator double-booked her date, and Saturday is the only day we can meet with replacement venues. You know how important this wedding is to everyone. Emma only gets one chance to have her dream wedding. I was sitting in our living room, surrounded by sympathy flowers and casseroles from neighbors I barely knew, holding the program I designed for Lucas's funeral. It had his picture on the front, the one from his 8th birthday where he was grinning and holding up 8 fingers, taken before the cancer stole his energy and appetite and hair. It's my son's funeral, I said, my voice completely flat. I know, sweetie, and believe me, we feel terrible about the timing. If there was any other way. But you have to understand, Lucas is gone. There's nothing we can do for him now. Emma's future is what matters. Her happiness is what we can still influence. Dad took the phone. Look, we'll send flowers. Something really nice. But Emma needs us right now. She's falling apart over this venue situation, and family has to stick together during crises. Lucas won't know whether we're there or not. But I'll know, I said. You'll understand when you think about it rationally, Dad replied. Family supports family. Emma is family. She's alive and needs help. We have to prioritize the living. I hung up and called my funeral director to change the program. Under pallbearers, I removed maternal grandfather and maternal grandmother. Under honorary pallbearers, I removed Aunt Emma. Saturday afternoon, I buried my child with 11 people in attendance. David and me, 3 of Lucas's friends from school with their parents, Mrs. Chin from next door who used to give Lucas cookies, the funeral director, and a cemetery worker who stayed respectfully nearby until the service ended. My family kept their word and sent flowers. A $30 arrangement from the grocery store, chrysanthemums and baby's breath with a card that read, "Sorry for your loss. Love, Mom, Dad and Emma." The flowers were smaller than the arrangement Emma had posted on Instagram that same day, celebrating her successful venue replacement meeting. I took photos of everything. The small crowd at Lucas's funeral. The grocery store flowers. Emma's Instagram story from her venue visit, showing her and my parents toasting with champagne flutes while my son was being lowered into the ground. 2 weeks after the funeral, the life insurance payment arrived. $850,000, deposited into a trust account with my name as administrator and sole beneficiary. The policy had been set up by my grandmother when Lucas was born. A detail I'd completely forgotten until the insurance company called to process the claim. I told no one about the money. David and I discussed it privately and decided to let it sit while we processed our grief and figured out how to honor Lucas's memory appropriately. We had time to make those decisions. For 6 months, my family maintained their respectful distance. Occasional check-in texts asking how I was holding up, but no real engagement with my grief or healing process. They seemed relieved that Lucas's death had simplified their lives, removing the uncomfortable obligation to pretend they cared about his illness. Emma's wedding planning accelerated during this period. The venue crisis had been resolved, and the new location was even more expensive and elaborate than the original. She posted daily updates about dress fittings, food tastings, and honeymoon planning. Her social media presence during the 6 months after Lucas's death showed 127 posts about wedding preparations and 0 mentions of her deceased nephew. Then disaster struck Emma's perfect wedding plans. The new venue was sold to developers who planned to demolish it for luxury condos. Emma had already sent save the dates to 200 guests, ordered custom linens and floral arrangements, and put down a $25,000 deposit that the venue refused to refund due to a clause buried in their contract. Mom called me on a Tuesday evening in April, 7 months and 12 days after Lucas's funeral. "We need to discuss Lucas's trust fund," she said without any preamble or gentle introduction. The words hit me like a physical blow, even though I'd been expecting this conversation since the insurance money arrived. Hearing her say it out loud made it real in a way that my anticipation hadn't prepared me for. "What trust fund?" I asked, though we both knew I was buying time rather than seeking information. "Don't be difficult. We know about the life insurance money. $850,000. Emma's wedding is in crisis, and that money could solve everything. She could book an even better venue, upgrade the reception, hire the photographer she really wants. This money could turn a disaster into the wedding of her dreams." "That money is for Lucas's memory," I said. "Lucas is dead," Mom replied, her voice taking on the sharp, impatient edge that appeared whenever someone challenged her decisions. "That money can't bring him back or help him in any way. But it can help your sister, who is alive and has a future and can actually benefit from the financial support." I stayed silent, listening to her breathing on the other end of the line. "Emma has never asked for anything unreasonable," Mom continued. "She worked hard in law school, found a successful husband, and deserves to start her marriage with a celebration that reflects everything she's accomplished. You, on the other hand, are sitting on money that serves no purpose except to make you feel somehow connected to a child who's gone." The cruelty of that statement was so breathtaking that I actually pulled the phone away from my ear and stared at it. "Family helps family," Mom pressed on. "That's what love looks like. Practical support for people who can use it. Emma can use this money. Lucas cannot. You're being selfish and manipulative by holding on to it." "I need time to think about this," I said. "There's nothing to think about. Emma's wedding is in 4 months. The longer you wait, the fewer options she'll have. You can keep $50,000 for yourself if you need some kind of memorial fund, but the rest belongs with family who can put it to good use." I hung up and immediately called my financial advisor to confirm the trust structure and my administrative authority. Then I started planning. The pressure campaign began immediately. Mom called every morning for 2 weeks, each conversation following the same script. I was being unreasonable. Lucas would want Emma to be happy. Family money should support family members who were alive to benefit from it. Dad called twice, using his disappointed father voice to explain how my selfishness was causing family stress during an already difficult time. Emma called once, delivering a tearful monologue about how her wedding dreams were being destroyed by circumstances beyond her control, and how much it would mean to have family support during the most important day of her life. She managed to cry through most of the conversation while somehow never mentioning Lucas by name. The most manipulative call came from Dad on a Thursday evening. "Your mother is worried about your mental health," he said. "This obsession with hoarding money connected to Lucas isn't healthy grief processing. It's becoming a problem for everyone in this family." "How is it becoming a problem for everyone?" I asked. "Emma is stressed about her wedding, your mother is worried about you, and I'm caught in the middle trying to keep this family together. That money is causing problems for living people. Lucas is beyond problems now." I started recording the phone calls after that. The turning point came when Emma posted on social media about her venue crisis, and how she needed prayers and community support during this devastating time. The post included a photo of her crying in her wedding dress, with a caption about how unexpected family tragedy had created unforeseen financial burdens that were threatening her ability to celebrate love and commitment. 234 people responded with sympathy, advice, and offers to help with wedding costs. The post was shared 47 times. Multiple local businesses offered discounted services. A GoFundMe campaign raised $3,200 in donations from her friends and colleagues. Not one person who responded to that post had attended Lucas's funeral. Not one person offering help had visited him during his illness. Not one person sharing her devastating situation had ever met my dead child. I screenshot the entire post and added it to my documentation file, which now contained over 400 images chronicling my family's complete abandonment of Lucas and their immediate mobilization for Emma's wedding crisis. 3 weeks later, Mom announced that the family would be having an intervention to address my unhealthy attachment to Lucas's insurance money and Emma's urgent need for family support. The meeting was scheduled for Saturday afternoon at their house, exactly 9 months after Lucas's funeral. I spent Friday evening preparing. I printed and organized every piece of documentation I'd collected over the past 2 years. Text message screenshots, social media posts, financial records, hospital visit logs, phone call recordings, and timeline comparisons. I arranged everything in chronological order in a large 3-ring binder, with tab dividers for each family member and color-coded sections for different types of evidence. I also prepared the trust documentation that would end this conversation permanently. Saturday afternoon, I arrived at my parents' house at exactly 2 p.m., carrying my documentation binder and wearing the same black dress I'd worn to Lucas's funeral. Emma was already there, sitting at the kitchen table in her wedding dress, the same one from her social media posts about the venue crisis. She was dabbing her eyes with tissues, though her makeup remained perfect. Dad sat across from her with printed spreadsheets that appeared to be wedding venue pricing and budget breakdowns. Mom was pacing between the kitchen and living room, clearly agitated and ready to begin what she'd undoubtedly rehearsed as a reasonable family intervention. Finally, Mom said when I walked in, "We've been waiting to get started. This has gone on long enough." I sat down quietly at the end of the table and placed my binder in front of me, unopened. Dad cleared his throat and launched into what was obviously a prepared speech. "We're here because this family is facing a crisis that requires immediate action and mutual support. Emma's wedding is 4 months away, and the venue situation has created financial pressures that threaten to ruin what should be the happiest day of her life." Emma nodded tearfully. "I never wanted to be in this position. Marcus and I saved for 2 years, but the venue cancellation penalties and the cost of finding a replacement at such short notice, it's just overwhelming." "Meanwhile," Mom continued seamlessly, "you're sitting on $850,000 that could solve this problem instantly. Money that's just sitting in an account serving no purpose while your sister suffers." I listened silently, my hands folded on the table. "We've discussed this as a family," Dad said, "and we believe the right thing, the loving thing, is to transfer 80% of Lucas's insurance money to Emma's wedding fund. That's $680,000, which would not only cover the upgraded venue but allow Emma to have the wedding she's always dreamed of. You can keep the remaining $170,000 for whatever memorial you want to create," Mom added as if she were being generous. "That's more than enough for a scholarship or a park bench or whatever would make you feel better." Emma leaned forward, her voice soft and practiced. "I know this is hard, but Lucas loved family gatherings. He would want this wedding to be beautiful. In a way, using his money to create a perfect celebration of love and family, it honors his memory." The room fell silent, waiting for my response. I opened my binder to the first section and pulled out a printed timeline. "Before we discuss Lucas's trust fund, I think we should review the family history that brought us to this moment." Dad frowned. "What history? We're here to solve a current problem." "This current problem has an 18-month backstory that I think is relevant to any financial decisions I might make." I placed the timeline on the table where everyone could see it. "This documents your involvement in Lucas's life from his cancer diagnosis until his death. Would you like me to read the highlights?" Mom's face was already flushing red. "That's not necessary. We know we did our best during a difficult time." "Let me share some specifics," I said, turning to the first page of screenshots. "This is a text message from Mom, sent 6 hours after I called to tell you Lucas was hospitalized with a life-threatening fever." The message reads, "Sorry to hear about Lucas. Emma needs me to drive her to 3 different cake tastings today. We'll try to call later." I turned the page. This is Dad's response to the same hospitalization. "Kids bounce back fast. Emma's having dinner with Marcus's parents tonight and she's nervous. Can we talk about Lucas tomorrow?" Emma started to speak, but I continued. "This is a social media post from Emma, uploaded while Lucas was having surgery to install his chemotherapy port. She's at a wine tasting for her wedding with the caption, 'Living my best life. So blessed.'" The timestamp shows it was posted exactly 43 minutes before I texted the family group asking if anyone could come to the hospital because Lucas was scared. The room had gone completely quiet. I pulled out a printed spreadsheet. "This tracks your visits to Lucas during his 18 months of treatment. Mom and Dad, 2 visits totaling 97 minutes. Emma, 0 visits. For comparison, Mrs. Chin from next door visited 14 times and brought Lucas homemade cookies. We had obligations, Mom said defensively. Emma's wedding. Emma's wedding planning involved 47 documented events during Lucas's treatment period. I interrupted, consulting my notes. Engagement parties, venue visits, dress fittings, food tastings, spa days and bachelorette activities. Lucas had 32 hospital admissions during the same period. The overlap in scheduling was remarkable. I turned to another section. This documents the financial support you provided during Lucas's illness. Total amount, $73. One get-well card, one small toy and gas money for your 2 hospital visits. I pulled out another spreadsheet. This documents the financial support you provided for Emma's engagement and wedding planning during the same period. Total amount, $47,312. Engagement party, venue deposits, dress shopping trips, catering tastings and honeymoon planning. Dad stood up, his face red with anger. What's your point? We were trying to keep life normal for everyone during a terrible time. My point, I said calmly, is that you made a choice about which life events deserved your time, money and attention. You chose Emma's party planning over Lucas's life. I opened to the most damaging section. These are your responses to Lucas's death. I placed 3 screenshots on the table. Mom's text message received 11 hours after I called to tell you he was gone. Oh honey, I'm so sorry. Let me know about funeral arrangements. Emma has venue visits this weekend but we'll figure something out. Emma was crying now but I continued. Dad's text message. Sorry for your loss. Keep the arrangements simple. Kids' funerals should be private family affairs. I looked directly at Emma. Your text message sent the morning after your nephew died. I'm devastated for you guys. By the way, did you get my text about Fluffy? Marcus and I leave for Napa tomorrow and need to confirm pet sitting. The silence in the room was deafening. And finally, I said, pulling out the last set of documents, your response when I needed you most. You skipped Lucas's funeral for Emma's venue shopping. You sent $30 flowers from the grocery store while spending $3,000 on Emma's engagement photo session the same weekend. I closed the binder and looked at each of them. Now you want Lucas's life insurance money to pay for Emma's party. You want to take the only thing he has left, his financial legacy, and spend it on the same wedding planning that you prioritized over his life. Mom found her voice first. You're twisting everything. We love Lucas but he's gone. Emma's here. She needs help. That's what family does. Family shows up, I said quietly. Family visits sick children. Family attends funerals. Family doesn't skip a child's burial to go venue shopping. I reached into my bag and pulled out a legal document. This is the trust documentation for Lucas's life insurance policy. Section 3 specifies that I am the sole administrator with complete discretion over fund distribution. I slid the document across the table. You should read it carefully. Dad picked up the paper and began reading. His face went pale as he reached the relevant section. In the event of the beneficiary's death, all funds shall be distributed according to the wishes of the named administrator, who maintains sole discretion over all financial decisions related to said funds. You're the only administrator, Mom said, her voice flat with realization. I'm the only administrator, I confirmed. But we're family, Emma said, her voice rising to a whine. You can't just keep money that could help family members. I opened my binder one final time and pulled out the most recent addition to my collection. This is your social media post from last week about your venue crisis. You wrote, devastated by unexpected family tragedy that has created unforeseen financial burdens. 234 people offered help and sympathy. I looked directly at Emma. You turned my son's death into a fundraising opportunity for your wedding. You told strangers that his death created financial burdens for you, when the truth is that his death created financial resources that you want to steal. Emma's tears had stopped. Now she just looked angry. You're being cruel. Lucas would want me to be happy. Lucas wanted you to visit him, I replied. Lucas wanted his aunt to care enough to see him during the worst period of his life. Lucas wanted his grandparents to show up when he was scared and sick and dying. He gave him none of that. Now you want his money. I stood up and gathered my papers. The answer is no. Not 80%. Not 20%. Not $1. Lucas's trust fund will be used to create a scholarship foundation for families dealing with childhood cancer. Every penny will go to children whose families actually show up for them. Dad slammed his hand on the table. You ungrateful little. We raised you. We gave you everything. You gave Emma everything, I corrected. You gave me the education I needed to see exactly who you are and what I mean to you. Thank you for that clarity. Emma was sobbing now, but with rage instead of sadness. You're ruining my wedding. You're destroying the most important day of my life. I'm not ruining anything, I said. I'm protecting my dead son's legacy from people who couldn't be bothered to protect him while he was alive. Mom tried one last manipulation. What would Lucas think of you being so selfish with money that could help family? I paused at the door and turned back. Lucas would think that family members who visit sick children get to make requests about dead children's money. Family members who skip funerals for party planning don't. I walked out, leaving them sitting around their kitchen table with wedding spreadsheets and the documentation of their 18 months of abandonment when a little boy needed them most. Within an hour my phone started ringing. First Mom, then Dad, then Emma, all leaving increasingly angry voicemails about how I was tearing the family apart and ruining Emma's life over money that couldn't help Lucas anyway. I didn't answer any of the calls. Instead, I called my lawyer and set up the Lucas Memorial Scholarship Foundation that same week. 6 months later, we held the first scholarship ceremony at the children's hospital where Lucas had been treated. 12 families received grants to help with medical expenses, travel costs, and living expenses during their children's treatment. The ceremony drew over 200 attendees. Doctors, nurses, other families, community members, and local business owners who had donated to the foundation. Every person in that room understood that childhood cancer was a family crisis that required family support. Every person there had shown up for a sick child in some way. Every person understood that children's lives matter more than adults' convenience. My parents and Emma were not invited to the ceremony. They sent flowers, chrysanthemums from the grocery store with a card that read, "Congratulations on your event. Love, Mom, Dad, and Emma." Emma got married 4 months later at a smaller venue that fit within her actual budget. I heard through neighbors that it was lovely. I wouldn't know. I wasn't invited. But every year on Lucas's birthday, 12 new families receive scholarships in his name. Every year, children fighting cancer get the support they need to focus on healing instead of medical bills. Every year, Lucas's legacy grows stronger, funded by the money my family thought they deserved for abandoning him. The foundation has grown beyond what I ever imagined. Corporate sponsors, individual donors, and charity events have contributed additional funds. We've expanded to provide not just financial support but also family counseling, sibling support groups, and emergency assistance for families in crisis. 3 years after Lucas's death, we've helped over 200 families navigate childhood cancer. Every family that receives support knows Lucas's story. They know that his legacy lives on through their children's healing, through their families staying together, and through the community of support that shows up when children need it most. My family still doesn't understand why they were excluded from this legacy. They see it as punishment for prioritizing Emma's happiness over my grief. They miss the point entirely. This was never about punishment. This was about protection. I am protecting Lucas's memory from people who couldn't protect Lucas himself. I am ensuring that his life insurance money creates the kind of family support system that he never had but deserved. Emma posts occasionally on social media about family drama and difficult relatives who hold grudges. She has never posted about childhood cancer awareness, never shared fundraising appeals for pediatric research, never acknowledged that her nephew died or that families like ours need support. She got her wedding. It just wasn't funded by her dead nephew's life insurance money. I think Lucas would be proud of that distinction. I know I am. The scholarship recipients send updates sometimes. Photos of children finishing treatment, graduation announcements, family celebrations that were made possible because medical bills didn't destroy their finances. These children have families who sleep in hospital chairs, who miss work for medical appointments, who celebrate small victories and weather devastating setbacks together. These children have families who show up. That's the family Lucas deserved. That's the family his trust fund created. And that's exactly how his story should end. Not with a wedding reception but with healing, hope, and families who understand that love means presence, especially when presence is difficult. Some legacies are built on money. Some are built on tradition. Lucas's legacy is built on showing up for children when they need it most. I think that's exactly what he would have chosen.